Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be looking at the awk command. The awk is a pattern scanning processing language. It's quite a lot. It's quite powerful. It's quite useful. And so we're going to look at some of the basic use cases. We won't be able to cover everything, but at least some introduction to the tool and just to show what it's capable of and for you to go off and to experiment with that, as well as we'll look at the man page again and look at some of the properties we can actually trigger using the flags. So without waiting, let's jump straight in and see what we have ready in this folder structure. So we have a couple of files. So one of just one of off to the side, one of the most common use case for awk is going through files and carrying out specific operations such as similar to grep. You could use awk to look within files and extract specific lines that match a certain pattern that take us back to a pattern conversation. That awk is very to get the best out of awk, understanding regular expression and patterns in the CLI and the command line, it's going to be a skill. It's going to be very important to get the best out of these tools. Grep, Find, awk, and other tools we'll touch on going forward. It's worth getting your head around regular expression. Even just the basic patterns and how they work are going to give you a good sort of starting point. So if let's have a look in some of these files before we get started. If we have a look in the application logs, so you can see a little bit of a sample fake application log. You have statuses and log levels on the left, and a message, possibly output from a fictional software somewhere in the world. The application started successfully. It's very good to know. That's very good to know. Now, if we look at, say, cat data, data has some columns and rows, and in these columns you can see name, age, department, and salary. Good realistic data there. And if we look, what else do we have? I have sample data in CSV format. So if I go sample, if I open that, you can see so similar information, except that's in CSV format, separated by comma separated file document, which is great because traditionally when you get data passed around, it's usually in one of these formats. Rarely you have this kind of information in a text file without delimiters, but we need to keep that for further demonstration. And awk is as powerful as something analogous to an Excel spreadsheet in the command line. It processes rows and columns out of the box. You can do various operation, various equation. Because it's a programming language, you can specify how to calculate various outcomes from data within the field. So the first thing I'll demonstrate is a little bit of how awk by default will go through the file and select based on your filters and the script you've written how you can make specific selection. And so if we look, let's look at the data. So if you go awk, start with awk, awk takes a script. Within that script we will let's go for print statement, which is just print the output. And if I go $1 followed by the file, which is data. Now let's see what it does. Now very simply, what it did, it just went through the file and print the first column, and that's something you get out of the box without any special programming or capabilities. That makes it very attractive to deal with files that are already structured in rows and columns, because it will go through all the rows and columns for you just as a given. So it's good. That's one good thing. So the next thing you can look at is patterns. So for example, if we change this to look at the application log, let's see what we get. Now, there you go. The application log returns just the first column. As you remember, the first column contained the log levels, info, warn, error, debug, and so forth. And it's delimited by the space that followed the semicolon. No, sorry, that's a colon. Yeah, that's a colon. And let's have a look again. What else do we have? So, what if we wanted to search through that log looking for lines that match a specific, say, info? We go back again into that awk and we zip into the statement here. Maybe we put / and say, let's go for arrow. So the error pattern, we're going to go through the file, go through the entire line, and that's 0 for the entire line. So print 0, similar to printing $1, which prints the first column of the file. $2 would print the second column until there aren't any more in that list. Now, arrow is a pattern delimited by the /. Let me just stop that from doing that. Okay. Shell is getting a bit overexcited. Now, I'm going to be looking at each line in the file, and I will only print that line if this pattern is true. Let's see. There you have it. So it went through the file pretty quickly, similar to grep, looked for a pattern that matches error, and lo and behold, you have the 2 error messages that's coming back based on the pattern. So awk is as powerful as grep in that regard. Very powerful, and even more because within awk you can write more logic in your programming. Let's go down that list and see. So if we go man, as you can see, it's quite an interesting setup. Lots of examples of regular expressions and statement, while loops, and various things you can do with awk. Why don't we have a look at the CSV, using it to process CSV? Seeing that, if I go cat data is just a simple text file, cat sample. You can see that's separated by commas. If you wanted to carry the similar operation using awk on this file, if we, for example, let's do that so I can demonstrate. Okay, now, okay, up. And if we wanted to look at, say, sample, let's not use a pattern on this one. We're just going to print each line out as is, exactly as is. Now, what if we wanted to print just the first column of these items? We would go print $1, which is the first column. Let's see what happens. Seeing that this is separated by comma, will it by default figure out that this file is separated by comma? No, it will not. By default, awk will be delimited by spaces. So if your file have got spaces, it will break that and consider that one column of the line, because it looks at it per line. So if you want awk to change its behavior around that, you can pass in a special option, which is capital F, and in double quote the option that we want it to take. Let's see if it accepts that. If not, we go for a double quote. But that works. Great. So you can see what it's done. Now we've instruct awk that this file is separated by commas, and print the first column of those comma. And just to prove that, if you try to print the second column, let's see what it have. There we go. What's there? Second column. Great. Age and so forth. Now, one more operation we can do with awk, which is overly simplified, but we could go through a file and sum up all the values within that file. So if we go here and we say, okay, what should we have? So in order to do that, we are going to go, let's go back to let's clear that. Calm down. Let's go back to just data. Let's just use this one. Data. So if we go back to printing that, that's easy. Good. And if let's check column 4. Good. So column 4 we have the salary column. What if we wanted to look at what's the total expenditure for salaries for all these employees? Then we'd write a little bit of logic in awk to do that. If we go here, we go, let's create a variable called sum, and we go plus equal, and this is $4. So plus equal $4, that means it's going to, for each line, it's going to append the value of column 4 to this variable. And then we have an end block, which would need a bit more to explain what an end block is. But for now, consider this a bit of a programming language, which would need more explanation as to all the directives and the terms that you can apply within that. It's all on the man page, so that would be very useful. And if we want to print sum at the end, sum, let's see what we have. There you go. So it's gone through and it sums up that we are paying out $295,000. So that should give you a little bit of flavor of what awk can do. The sky is really limited with awk. You can do general programming with awk, complex application. However, awk wasn't really built as a general programming language. Your application would be quite tricky to maintain because it doesn't have many data structures per se, but you can achieve lots of scripting automation tasks within the command line using awk. Anything to process text, you could use high-level programming language like JavaScript or additional language to write more complex application, and then outsource some of your text processing to awk, because awk is very capable at doing that kind of thing very efficiently. It's been around for a while. It's also well hardened in this area and it's specialized. So what else can we demonstrate? Let me look down that man page and see what else we can look at. Man. Okay, so if you go down, you have all the input, line input, all the constructs and so forth. If, expression, while, for, do statement, break, continue, all these are the kinds of things you'll find in a full-fledged programming language. Awk has got quite a bit. There are even games written in awk. If you search on YouTube for games in awk, you'll find quite a bit of games and puzzles and interactive command line tools that are written on top of awk. I think that is a good demo. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what awk can do. And thank you for watching, and hope you find that useful. and I'll catch you on the next one.